was 1997, and there was a young couple, Don and Gina, who had had their first baby. He was born November 10th, and I was on a 12-week maternity leave. And we decided we were going to visit both sides of the family that year. I had this time off from work on my leave. Don's family celebrated Christmas Eve in St. Louis. My parents were still living in Pennsylvania, as was my brother and his wife at the time. And we got this wild haired idea that we were going to take a 6 week old baby, drive to St. Louis from Charlotte, North Carolina, and stay through Christmas Day. And then from Christmas Day, drive out to Pennsylvania. And we were lucky. Harrison, by, a couple weeks old, was doing pretty good with his sleep, getting a good amount of sleep at night that we could get some sleep and kind of had a bit of a routine going. And so we packed up, and I think that's back in the time when we started to leave early in the morning. I don't remember exactly what time we left, but we packed all the gear and drove halfway across the country. I believe it was your brother and sister-in-law that put us up at their place, let us use their bedroom, even had like a pack and play for
Oh,
us
that's right.
for Harrison to sleep in. And on our way there, we would drive, drive, drive. We would stop. I would nurse him, get gas. We'd drive, drive, drive. So he slept most of the way in the car. Unfortunately, that did a little bit of a number on his sleep routine. But we enjoyed Christmas with the Grodoffs in Missouri. We had the cutest little red and white kind of elf outfit for him. Everyone got to see this little baby because Don is the youngest of his siblings and got married at the ripe old age of
34.
34
Yeah, I think
and
so.
had
Yeah.
a kid at 39. Um, Everyone was excited to have a baby around. All our nieces and nephews were kind of older children, teenagers, young 20s, and they were excited to have this little baby around. And so we enjoyed ourselves. And then we packed up and leaving for St. Louis on Christmas Day to drive to Allentown, Pennsylvania area. Um, and of course, we needed to stop to eat. We ate Chinese food, the only thing open.
Well, remember too, it was during a time we didn't have internet then, so to try to find something was a little more difficult.
Yeah, this is 1997. This
Yeah.
is 28 years ago.
Yeah.
This little elf turns 28 next week. And yeah, so we didn't have all those luxuries, right? We stopped at rest stops, we stopped to get food for gas. And yeah, we didn't
You didn't
do
have Gas Buddy or
check-ins and let people know what time we'd be in town. And we got into Pennsylvania and we got to celebrate. I don't know if it was that night or probably the next day because that was a long haul. And so this was the beginning of our extended trips to St. Louis that used to take what, probably 10, 11 hours
at least,
and
yeah.
now took like 14
14, 15.
hours
Yeah. Yeah.
to get there. But we enjoyed ourselves in Pennsylvania, had some time with our family, and went back home. I remember the biggest challenge was just his sleep schedule being messed up.
Hmm.
It was a lot to take on as new parents. What did we know? I was 28, you were 39. We were young and stupid with a newborn, and we did this crazy traveling, right? Would we do that, 12 years later when we had three children? No. Um,
But
and
I do remember, now we didn't do it with that trip, but you used to wrap their different stuff, even that we had here at home,
when
to
they were
open.
when they were older, when I had toddlers, young children, I learned this trick somewhere. I would I'd make presents. Sometimes they were just their toys, but in wrapping paper and the excitement of every hour you got to unwrap a present. And it's just the fun of doing that. And there were some new things. There were some car, activities that could be done. We found ways. We like to travel in the car. We made it. fun. We played road games. We stopped at, restaurants
Parks
with
and stuff. Yeah.
playlands to get out and exercise. I still remember. So our older two kids were probably 3 and 7, and we stopped at a place with a climbing tower. And our oldest wasn't into all that climbing and physical activity, but the our younger daughter was. We had two at the time, and I remember him walking around the structure, going, "Okay, I think it's safe for her to climb on it now."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we had our own food. We've always eaten kind of different than the average family, but we'd get a treat of French fries or something along our journey, and papers and toys all over the car, and we, to bring the things that we needed, and we liked that we could just bring everything that we needed. We could bring food that we needed when we learned about food sensitivities. We traveled with some of our own food, and so um, these are adventures in parenting and traveling. So, hello, everybody.
This is Don,
And this is Gina with Focused Healthy Family.
and this is podcast number 191. We're getting really close to 200 here. And this one, we're talking about home for the holidays. All right, so our tip for today, well, I've got one here from our friend Caregiver 101, Mike Collins, 101 Ways to Keep Caregiving from Making You Crazy. And we're going to have Mike on here pretty soon talking a little bit about holidays and all too with his profession in it. And I'm going to take, this is tip number 27, but I'm going to shrink it down because it's a pretty long one. The one I really liked about it is attempt to celebrate the holidays in the same manner as you have in the past, but get help to make it happen. Ask others to help you with shopping, decorating, cooking, whatever other activities you need accomplished to celebrate a great holiday. Family and friends will often ask, what can I do? This is the time to tell them. The fact that they can pitch in to help you celebrate the holidays and a wonderful impetus to help them feel helpful.
So, Don, I've got a joke here for you.
Okay.
Um, these are kind of one-liners. The older you get, the more the holidays become about keeping your father off the ladder.
Yeah. And that goes pretty good for me too.
You're getting old when the candles cost more than the cake. My body has gotten totally out of shape, so I decided to take an aerobics class for seniors. I bent, twisted, grunted, and panted, and by the time I was done, I realized the class hadn't started yet. I was just putting on my socks and shoes.
You run into that a lot.
So here we are thinking about the holidays. Um, And whether you're dealing with young children, aging parents and loved ones, or a lovely combination of all of the above, you might be having family locally or traveling about to visit people, thinking about challenges that you might be encountering and what can we do to minimize that stress to, like you said, asking for help, um, thinking about things that other people can do.
Well, I thought of one right off the bat because we just put up a bunch of lights right now for Halloween, and we've got cords laying all over the place. And especially when you're deal, I mean, youngsters too, very young, it can be a hazard, but also as you get older, not having those in a place that can be a tripping accident, you know, or having them laid somewhere where it gets dangerous to walk around them, stuff like that, I think is an important thing.
Be proud. Our 23-year-old daughters were the ones that put the lights out. And she even identified if we run the cord this way, we could put it up close to the below the threshold of the door, so it wasn't in walking stepping path for safety for that reason. So I stopped to think about, okay, you want to bring mom or dad home at the holidays. I remember when your mother's last year, she was in a nursing home and your sister brought her home to the house for the day for Christmas. Um, Unfortunately, my dad spent some of his last holidays in rehab locations. Um,
Yeah.
and then he passed last October before we hit the holidays. But thinking about bringing a loved one in the house. Um, Can they get in the door? So when you're thinking about where you're gathering, if you've got someone who's got some challenges physically, and maybe it's not even an older person, are there other people that have
Mhm.
limitations? How accessible is it to the house? How accessible is it to get inside? We have a lot of steps to get in our house. Once you're in, it's flat, although we've
If you have to,
realized after having a family member here that our half bathroom that's easily accessible off the living room has a very narrow doorway. And so someone who's in a wheelchair
Mhm.
does not fit through there. And yet, um, you know, we had to help her out in our bathroom. And getting inside and outside was quite a challenge because of the steps. Much
Mhm.
to your credit, Don, my aunts were here to help getting in, but then leaving, they had left already. You made a temporary ramp. You took some old wooden boards that we had and you drilled them into the steps that went into the garage. It was steeper than you would normally make a ramp. And we had like three or four people, some in the front, some in the back,
That lowered it down.
wheeled her down.
Yeah.
And it's generally a good idea to wheel down backwards, um, not forwards. I lowered her down to get her down to her car. She has an accessible van. So, thinking about that, whose house is it going to be at? Accessibility, oh, you're planning to have things outside. Well, what if the weather's not cooperative? To someone like we have a garage, we could have had, opened up the garage space because that doesn't take steps to get to it. What ways of making things accessible for people. And then, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that, and when you're inside, things like rugs, mats, things like that on the floor, you have to be careful whether they're flat enough, whether you even want to have them around when the person is
Throw
coming around.
rugs are big tripping hazards, whether it's just someone's foot. A lot of times, older people when they pick their feet up to walk, they don't pick it up fully, can easily trip on a rug. You see young kids do this, they bounce off the floor, they get back up, unless they have some special circumstances. But the older we get, the less we bounce. So, throw rugs are generally good to just be taken out of the area. So toys on the floor, dog toys, cat toys, small animals, right?
Cat food, cat,
Yeah, pieces of
yeah,
cat food and treats around. And the other big thing is where's the person going to sit?
yeah.
So if the person has a wheelchair, even if they're not going to be using it at your house, do they have a nice cushion in it, a wheelchair cushion? Putting that down wherever they're sitting can be real helpful. Depending on the height of the person, most couches can be a little too soft. They sit a little too low. The lower you're sitting, the harder it is to get up from it. Think about a hammock. Anybody get in a hammock? You lower yourself way down in there and then to pull yourself out. For those of us who've been pregnant, getting up when you're 9 months pregnant can be really challenging. Your center of gravity is shifted. Um, so thinking about that, generally a firm chair, firm surface with arms is the most helpful of getting up and down. Most people who've had some physical challenges as they're older, or maybe they just had, hip surgery or something, having a chair with arms to get up from and thinking about where the chair is located. Are they hard of hearing? Do they have dementia? Are there factors going on that they could get overwhelmed? Can we put the chair, relocate it, or how can we set things up for that person? So thinking about that surface and, can you do a practice run through? Your loved one is going to go, say, we're going to your sister's house, can we go over there one day before the holidays and just kind of think through it and see how it would go, even if you don't take them with you? Um, you can measure the height of their chair they normally stand up from the top of the seat down to the floor, and compare it to things you have at home. You also want to think about the width. If you have a tiny little, Aunt Zita, and
And Zita.
she sits in her little chair, and you've got this big recliner at home with the arms are way out here, that person's going to have a harder time getting up from that. So thinking about the size of the chair and all those different directions. So um, a transport chair, it's like a wheelchair, but it's lightweight and folds easily, can be a great travel accessory and provide a seat for the person. Again, having a nice wheelchair cushions are designed for comfort and and posture and control. Um, that can be real nice for sitting in no matter where you're at. If you're not in your wheelchair, but on another chair of some. My dad had a lot of back problems in his later years, and he always liked the hard wooden chair. He always felt better, and maybe because he could get up from it better.
Yeah.
But we have a nice wooden chair with arms that he would often sit in. It'd be easier to get up from. So, does this person are they in the habit of getting up from a lift chair? So, by a lift chair, I mean a recliner that's got that feature where it actually tilts you up in the air. If someone is accustomed to getting up that way, their legs are probably weakened because they're allowing the chair to do that work for them, their core muscles. And so, you think, oh, well, their chair is this high at home. They get up all the time, but they're using the lift feature. You don't have that at your house. So, thinking about getting them in, where they're going to sit, how are they going to get up, and obviously, how are they going to get to the bathroom? What is that going to look like? A lot of people have the 3-in-1 commodes. It's a portable frame that fits over your toilet. It can be brought from one house to another. There's other things that you can purchase that are removable or easily mountable and removable for handles on the toilet or raised seats and things like that. Grab bars. People like to pull up on towel bars, door
Yeah.
handles, faucets, which are all not safe and can easily get pulled off the wall and not do their job of supporting someone. So, looking at portable options so that person can be comfortable and manage these things that they need to do, which can be extra challenging when you're away from home. Just like those of us who've raised children, going on vacation with young children is basically, taking care of children in an unfamiliar place with, um, you don't have everything at the ready that you're used to. So thinking about it in that regards as well, what things can we do to make this environment more familiar and
Well,
safe?
think of the sink too. Like we have one bathroom, the sink is lower. I think that somebody lived here before might have been handicapped in that room or something. But think about in one of our bathrooms, our sink is kind of taller, and it might not be as reachable for somebody in a wheelchair or something like that. So you got to think about that kind of changes.
And then really thinking about the structure of the day, just like if you have children or children with special needs, sensory issues, get overstimulated, overwhelmed by people, even if you have a child who's an extrovert, they can kind of amp up from the energy. Finding ways to work in quiet time. I have a cousin, would go off to his room when people would come over for a while because it just got overwhelming, right? Having that ability to kind of plan that into the day. What can we do to minimize these? What are the challenges that we can expect the different people, might encounter? What escapes can we have for that person? Is there someone in the family that can kind of be their designated person to help them? Putting a grandchild in charge of keeping an eye on grandpa or grandma, kind of getting drinks and food for them. And,
Mhm.
it gives them something to do and a purpose and helps that both of them feel extra special to have someone taking care of them and that in that capacity. So,
Well, and now this might be a little bit different, but the idea of getting someone to cater a meal so that you have enough time, and not only you want to be able to enjoy your family, but when you've got an elderly person that you have to do things with, that's going to take more of your time,
mm,
then having someone come in and take care of some of the meals,
sure.
whether it's a sister-in-law or something like that, or if you're
Hiring, if you
just
have the
hiring
means,
somebody.
yeah, preparing the food way ahead of time, paying for a cleaning service. Maybe there's a family member out of town that wishes they could help. Well, can they afford to pay for a cleaning service for you before people come and maybe even after?
Or they clean up too.
But well, if they're not able to come,
Yeah,
they're out
no,
of
I know.
town.
Oh, yeah.
Thinking about those other things that need to happen. Maybe right after family leaves, you've got to get back to work. You're busy with your job, having people that can jump in and help do the cleanup of things. So thinking through kind of the before, the during, the after, and what ways, how can we minimize the stress on ourselves? I
Mhm.
know when We hosted my family coming to my house after my dad's funeral service. We had the church where my mom connected with for his service. There was a group of women there, and they provided meals for that purpose, and they brought them over to our house, and we let them know we were gluten free. And yet they didn't tell us which items were gluten free. So we didn't uh, we didn't have that figured out, so, and I'm trying to do this and greet people and all this, identifying someone. Okay, can you be in charge of the food? Can you handle these different things? Because even when you're not preparing the food, just getting things ready, it takes a lot of time. It took more time than I really thought about, getting all that ready with people coming in. And so, yeah, what other things can people do? Um, what ways can you have other people help out? And like you said, if you need to be supporting the loved one, you need to be assisting them in whatever capacity that is. That's going to take some extra time from you.
Well, I thought about a couple of things that are kind of out of the realm of safety of the house, but if you got a parent that's going to be coming to your house, maybe for a long time it always happened at the parent's house, and they were happy with that, but now it's changed. I know a lot of things changed after my father died. We went around to different places, and think about it. One is if you can find some decorations from your family's house that you can bring into your house, even if you decorate differently in your own house. If you have a couple of things there to kind of bring back that memory of the past, I think would be a good thing.
The familiarity. I like that. The idea of a traveling Christmas decorations
Yeah,
that
yeah.
go to
w-
whoever's house is hosting.
Yeah. The other thing is think about the idea of gifts might be different for when you get to be a certain age, there's not a lot of things you need. Or it could be the opposite. You need some things, but the basic stuff like socks and things like that. But think about if someone, as they get older and they really don't need the gifts. I know, like, I think your mom's kind of like that. There's not much you can give her anymore.
She's still getting rid of things from her
So
downsize.
doing things that might bring memories from the past, doing a photography book of memories for the past, or something that might just have her remember something.
Or doing an activity with them,
Yeah,
thinking outside the box of a different way of gifting that person. And on the other hand, you could have, an aging loved one who does need things. We don't realize, if they live at a facility, talking to them, they're really out of socks. They keep
yeah.
losing their socks, or, they could really use some extra cups. They drink out of a special handled cup. They could use more of those. They enjoy music. Can we get them? We did this for my dad when he was in and out of rehab. We bought a record player with a
It was a
CD.
CD player, it was a record player.
I think it had a tuner on it though too, so you can tune into a radio station.
Hmm.
And we bring music that he could listen to and enjoy. So thinking outside the box, what things might they appreciate and enjoy? Um, a special treat, their favorite cookie or holiday
Yeah.
dessert. Um, I know I have a son who's hard to buy for, and the go-to is just making him a lasagna. One year I made one we enjoyed for his birthday, and then there was an extra one he got to take home with him.
Yeah.
And that can be, a handy thing, sending loved ones with special homemade food items. Um, so yeah, there's a lot to think about, whether we're traveling places, whether we're the one hosting, if you're going somewhere and you have an aging family member or someone with special needs, can you reach out to that person ahead of time? You know, how could I be of help? Is there something that I could do or something, we could get other people to help out with, to make things, what less strenuous for that person, especially who's hosting. Uh,
Well, I think too is being patient. I remember, like, say, when at certain times with my family, when we left the house and we went somewhere else, it was always kind of trying for my mom to have to deal with that versus having something at their own house, Or, she always had trouble with us getting food, even though she couldn't really cook. It was just troubling. It wasn't, she didn't lash out or anything, but you could tell that it bothered her. So being patient, kind of observing those kind of changes and just listening to them of what's going on for them.
And we've talked about this before. If you have a loved one around that you're spending time with in preparation for holiday gatherings, um, is there a recipe that they can instruct you through? Even if you know how to make it, you can have them be involved in some way. Maybe they can wash the apples, or there's aspects of the tasks that they can do, or they can instruct a grandchild on how to do it. And it's important to have as much extra time as possible built in. I know when I made cookies and things over the years, I'd have to decide, do I have enough patience to have my kids involved? And sometimes I'd say, I'm in a hurry. I don't have any patience. I'm sorry. This is not the time to let you come in help, and to identify, because I didn't want to make it miserable as mom was getting frantic and, no, you're not doing that right. When I was a kid, my mom would make cookies at Christmas and I was the sifter. I just remember I was in charge of sifting flour. I'm not sure why, but I remember that was my job. So, how can we ease the burden of both the person with the challenges and the other people caring for them? What ways can we step in and help and support, um, to make things a little less stressful on everyone? So, some things to think about as we're into November here. And we're glad that you joined us today. Stay tuned for more holiday tips and suggestions and ideas. Um, Hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please share it with anyone you know who might be interested. Give us a comment, like, and subscribe. You can hear this anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you like what you're hearing today, learn more about what Don and I do at our website, focusedhealthyfamily.com, looking at uh, uh, a consulting work, Don's EFT tapping practice. You can find him Tuesday nights on Zoom, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where he takes you through a round of tapping. He's got lots of resources on that as well. Again, website is focusedhealthyfamily.com, Facebook at Focused Healthy Family, Instagram, Focused Healthy Family 1, YouTube at Focused Healthy Family. Join us every Thursday when we air these wonderful podcasts. Please check out our prior episodes. Several years of them now, all kinds of topics, other tips around the holidays. Look back to what you've enjoyed. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, how you speak to your children and your loved ones today shapes their future and yours.